Hello and welcome to Real Actors, Real Answers, the video podcast where you are the star. Today, I have a gentleman, I like his name. His first name is David, but his full name is David Acuff. He works for Disney. That's what I said, Walt Disney. He has a Disney editor. He's a publisher. He's an author. He has a wide range of duties and passions and things, but I could go into that forever, but I won't. Let me introduce you to him, and then put your ears on because it's a wild ride. Okay. All right, David Acuff, how are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How's Los Angeles?
You know, it's LA, so it's got its ups and downs. The weather is really nice though right now, so
Yeah.
it's almost February. The trees are starting to turn, so maybe it's fall now. I don't know. It's a little confusing.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about this wonderful world of Disney life that you live.
It is so magical. I tell you, every morning I wake up and the squirrels and the rabbits come in. They help get me dressed. They pour my coffee. It's just, life is just so perfect. They sing me songs as I gallivant off to work, and where everybody's happy all the time. We don't have Zoom meetings at work. We just have, song ensembles, and we just all break into. It's amazing. It's exactly like every Disney movie you've ever seen.
Okay, that was a fantasy version, but how did you get started with Disney? Let's start from there, and don't start with your birth date and you were born, but you choose the date.
Yeah, I won't do the Bugs Bunny thing. First, I was born. There was, when I moved out here in 2014. And, I'd done a lot of work on the East Coast, like 30 years of production and all this kind of mostly corporate video, weddings, so many recitals, all the little kids in tutus, just whatever I could do to make a living. Came out here in 2014 because I wanted to get involved with, Hollywood production. That was always the big thing. Film and television was always my end game. And so when I got out here, I'm just in a line with thousands of other people trying to get in the studio. So fortunately, I had some friends that have been out here for years. They suggested a temp agency route. And so I signed up with a couple temp agencies. And, temp agents out here, they're just like everywhere else. They place you, it's mostly administrative. It's like office production assistant type work. But it's inside a studio. So I signed up with an agency, and they specifically fed into DreamWorks, Warner Brothers, and Disney. And I figured I could land at any one of those three big ones, and I'd just be happy. So I started with them, and they did. They got me a 2-month assignment at Disney, and at the end of that, they called me back to do some freelance editing. Because I'd shown them my edit reel, and so it just kind of snowballed into a bigger thing. And then after that, one of their editors left. He had had enough of the mouse, so he left, and I was like, "Hey, this sounds like a great opportunity." So I applied for the job and got it, and so I was there for about 8 years with them full time. So,
Wow. Okay, that's the short version.
yeah,
the long version, short of it. I mean, that was 2014. It's now 2026, so that's about 10 years or so.
Yeah, correct.
What got you involved in the whole process of I want to work for Disney?
Well, I think ever since I was 9 years old, I went to a Baptist retreat, this camp, and they're like at the end of it, "Hey, write down what you think you want to be when you grow up," and kind of. After a week of praying, a weekend of praying and all this studying and stuff, it's like, what's God kind of calling you to? And so I remember I said entertainment industry, and that always stuck with me because it always was something that interested me. And so when I went to college later, it was specifically I wanted to get into like video production and kind of take all the screenwriting courses that I could and all that, and just kind of but take as many courses as I could to get trained. And then once you get out of undergrad, I freelanced for about 5 years. But again, it was all corporate video stuff. And when a recession hit in 99, I decided that was a good time to go back and get my master's. And so my master's degree was specifically for directing and editing. That's where I focused. At undergrad was everything: radio, television, film, video, everything. Grad school was much more focused on just directing and editing. So then again, I knew that was my passion. I've been writing scripts and all that for many years, and had a couple that indie films that came out of that. So we had some of those scripts turn into feature length films. So that was good. But it's always been, I'm always been a visual person. It's how I learn, and it's how I interact with other people. It's how I do with my storytelling. For others, very, very visual communicator. And so it just all kind of aligned. And like I said, when I came out here, Disney is like the powerhouse. They're like the dream place because they own everything, every property that you and I love. Pixar, Lucasfilm, they own it all. So Marvel. So anyway, so I gravitated toward them, and it just worked out that there was an opening, after I had done my temp agency stuff, then there was an opening that I was able to just roll right into. So it was good.
So you mentioned writing feature films.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of feature films have you written?
These were two, I have a friend in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Jeremiah McClam with Jer Film Productions. So he and I had collaborated on a couple of them. They were faith-based, two faith-based films for the market there, basically centering around a couple of, like some high school girls. One was a high school wrestler. One was a high school wrestler, and she didn't have a coach, and she was trying to be, the best she could be, and she's wrestling with the boys because there is no girls wrestling thing, and so so she finally finds this down and out guy that turns out he knows a thing or two, and so she gets him to be the her coach, and so that was one of them, and then we had another one that was again another faith-based. Kind of like a high school drama. So we kind of wrote it for the area that he lived in, and the people that he had access to, and the locations that he had access to. Like his mom was a principal of a private Christian school, and so again he had access to certain things. So we kind of wrote it toward that, and then he raised a little bit of money, and then he shot it, and then I helped him cut them together. So it was
wow.
Good.
I like that. And the name of that, what you held up, is Restoration?
Yeah, one of the wrestling one was Restoration.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Masquerade. Looks like a scary cover, but it's not. It's a faith-based film.
Okay.
So.
Excellent. So you work from home?
It's a mix. So 4 days a week I'm at Disney. 9 to 6, Monday through Thursday I'm at Disney. And then since the pandemic, they've on Fridays they still let people work from home. So I'm here in my home office, and then I just dial in to my computer and then edit from here on Fridays. So
oh wow.
But I'm still 2 years ago, that's when they let 7,000 people go. So I was part of that big exodus, but then they brought me back a year later to do exactly the same thing I was doing before, but with a new temp agency. So officially I'm through a temp agency for the next 2 years on a contract with them. And so it's a Monday through Friday gig, full time, doing behind the scenes videos and all kinds of stuff for ABC and Hulu stuff, Disney Channel. So just a lot of variety, which is really fun. So.
Have you ever done edited any animation?
Some animation, but not as much. I wanted to get more into that. I would love to get more into the animation side, but most of my stuff has been like live action or kind of the corporates behind the scenes sort of video stuff. So
Okay. You're the you're the unsung hero when it comes to, editing. I do a lot of editing for my students and that, and for myself. It's tedious, it's hard work, but what would you do without an editor?
right.
It would be a big mess, is what it would
Oh
be.
yeah, yeah.
Do you like to edit? Do you love to edit?
I do. I love to edit, and that was the first thing. Besides the writing part, editing was the first thing that I got into because that's where I made all my money initially. And in every market that I moved, they always needed an editor first. So even at Disney, when I moved out here, it was editing that got me in the door first because everybody needs a fast and a good editor to do whatever they're doing. So editing, I love it, and I feel like it's made me a better writer. It's made me a better director because when I get out in the field, I'm cutting this together in my mind. So I already know, all right, we shoot this side. Now we shoot this side. We shoot some coverage. And I already know this is going to cut together and I've got it. Whereas some of the new kids, they're just spraying everything and they're just going to find it in post. And it's
Oh
just a
no,
tough.
we'll find it in post. No, you won't.
So, so yeah, I love editing and I love being able to find the moment to whittle through just hours of junk and then find like the compelling moments and be able to add the music and be able to drive people to laughter or tears or goosebumps or whatever it is. I enjoy that process.
Nice. I'm looking at I'm not ignoring you. I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm looking at your page with so many awards that you've won over the time. That's a lot in 10 years or so.
Right.
I gotta address this though. You're a comedian. I can see that with your energy clearly. But it says you're a divorced TikToker. Could you explain that?
Yeah, that was just, when you come out here, you kind of have to have a little log line so people know who you are. And that divorced TikToker, that was just one of those that, I'm on Instagram and I'm on TikTok and LinkedIn and X, Facebook, because you can't just write your books. You can't just edit your projects and make your movies. You have to then get them to people. You have to drive eyeballs. And in order to do that, in this day and age, you need a presence online. So I've been huge with trying to push out regular content on Instagram and TikTok. And I have a bigger following on Instagram. But TikTokers sounded funnier. and then divorced, that's just, yeah, that was part of my comedy routine, up front when I was introducing myself to the audience. It's like, guys, I am divorced, but I didn't want to be divorced. I wanted to be widowed.
That's funny.
And that just kind of opens the door for, a lot of things.
Right. Have you ever been an actor? I know clearly you're an actor behind the drawing board.
Right.
But have you ever been like a stand-up comic? Have you ever been, because I'm detecting some things in you that you wouldn't be afraid of being in front of the camera?
No, that's true. And being an editor and being behind the scenes on some of these things, sometimes you're pulled into a lot of different projects. So in grad school, I was, we were all different roles on everybody else's project and they would come and help you. So I did a lot of acting and voiceover work. So that's where I really love the most, is because for the audio books that I do and stuff like that, I love having my script right there, being able to read it off and not having to memorize huge chunks, not having to worry about being on camera. What's this eye doing? Is it freaking, I don't know. I don't have to worry about that. It's audio only. So I enjoy the audio acting a lot. So
how many books have you written? How many books have you audio?
Written 7 books, and then 2 of them are audiobooks currently. And I'll be eventually I'll be turning the others into audiobooks. But I didn't like the audiobooks that was just one person reading the whole thing. I enjoy pulling in other actors. I enjoy pulling in, other people and sound effects to make it a whole, kind of a production. So I enjoy that part of the audio book world. And again, I'm an editor, so I can add in all those elements and just really make it an experience, an experience for your ears. But yeah, no,
Now,
I feel like I'm acting all the time. So
so you're a voiceover artist as well. I'm going to
yes,
put it like that.
yes.
How do you learn, or how did you learn voiceover narration? There's a big difference between that and animation.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'm a huge proponent of classes. And again, when I first came out here, and once I had the full-time job and they're paying me, I got bills and that covered. I can eat again. That's good. Then I can start to think about, well, what am I going to do with my nights and weekends, and to start taking some classes. So I took some stand-up comedy classes. I took some audio voiceover, classes, so I could really kind of understand the dynamic range of getting into characters and just mic presence, and how far you stand off the mic and how not to pop your peas, and yeah,
Right.
all that kind of stuff, which is essential for that, and how to be dynamic with your voice, but not to blow out the audio guy, and then be so soft in the next, and then, so, but to be dynamic, but within this range. So you can talk like a normal person, or you can get
Yeah.
angry as a normal person, but it's all still in this particular audio range. And those are all just very basic skills that people that work with you enjoy, that they don't have to tell you this or that, or hey, can you stand back from the mic, or can you not scream in my ear, or whatever it is.
So they expect a semi-polished appearance.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
How
And
long?
I haven't broken into like the big voiceover market. Like I've noticed out here, because I'm not union, and so I'm not SAG, and so I don't have access to some of those big jobs, the big gigs. But I have noticed with those that the same voice actors, the same five voice actors, are in all their big, cartoons and shows and stuff like that. So I think once you're in it, you're set for, really well, because they keep calling you and you're at the top of their, person to call list. But for now, I'm not at that point. So it's just, as a friend needs this, or as, a colleague needs that, then I'll go work on their projects. But it's,
Um, Disney in California.
mhm.
Excuse me.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Disney in California. Do they have like a studio that's dedicated to the voiceover artists, or how does that work?
Uh, Disney has a bunch of different locations. Their main location is in Burbank, and they've got the studio lot with all the sound stages and
Yeah.
stuff there. And then they've got on the other side, they've got the feature animation building, and that's really locked off. Like even my Disney badge won't get me into that building. You have to have special credentials to get in. They keep it very locked down. But they do have a lot of sound recording booths and voiceover things in that building. They do have some on the other side of the campus, because again, Marvel is on the other side of the campus, as well as Lucasfilm
Okay.
has some offices there. But then they also have, like in San Francisco, they've got, the Industrial Light and Magic stuff up there on Skywalker Ranch. They've got Pixar's up there somewhere. So they're really spread out. We've got offices in Glendale, stuff down in Anaheim with the actual, Disneyland and surrounding areas. So they've got a lot, and New York, there's stuff, big buildings out there for their ABC and Nat Geo and just a bunch of their stuff. So it's again, it's huge and it's spread out, but they do have a bunch of voiceover areas. So
What was your best project? I mean, not best. What was your most favorite fun-filled project? Do you have one?
I had when I was at Regent, I was there was a guy that was putting together an animated pilot, and so it was called Angel Wars. And so I went into audition for this one character, and they're like, we don't think so for that character, but we like these choices you made. Can you try this character? And so I did that one, and they liked it. And then so I ended up doing like three other characters, and not this main one, but I got three other, and that was just super fun. So I got to do the pilot, and then after that, they kind of moved to California. And then they got some money, and they kind of moved on without me, unfortunately. But I enjoyed doing the pilot because, again, like you said, it was animated, these characters. I got to play a demon. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, this sassy demon. Oh, my gosh. So it was just fun to play that kind of a character. And
Right.
3 years ago, one of my Regent friends, he was doing some big producing work in Nashville, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to audition for a beaver for my family camp movie?" So Family Camp came out in the theaters a couple years ago, and I was like, "Yeah, I want to audition for that." So I just sent him some stuff of me, and just walking around my house, just personality galore just for this non-talking animal. And then they got me into I got it, and they got me into a sound booth out here. So now I'm in this. It's all live action movie except for this one beaver that gets is interspersed for comic relief throughout. And so again, it was just that to me is like perfect. I don't have to be on camera, so it's just fun.
That sounds similar to Mel Blanc because when he first started out, it was totally by accident. You probably know this, like when he had to do Porky Pig, you know, and they needed it for a commercial, I believe it was. And sure, I can do it, I guess, and that kind of opened the doors. So you played this nondescript animated beaver,
Uh-huh.
right? You did that,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they liked it. Go figure what people want. You don't know
Yeah.
what people want until they tell you.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's you can look at the characters, and that's the part of it like I like too is when you look at some of the designs of the characters and you kind of think, all right, this person speaks like this, and there's that story of the guy that plays Chris on Family Guy,
Oh yeah,
Seth Green, I think. But everybody was doing like these normal voices for that character of Chris, but he came in with this whole different kind of a read. Oh, damn, yeah, and just this crazy read. But they loved it. It made that character pop a lot more. And then so they're looking for you to bring some different ideas. And again, when I was doing Angel Wars, that's what I did. I gave them this, I gave them that, I gave them some range, and they're like, "Well, we don't like it for that, but we do have these three other characters, and so we want you to, try the." And so again, by giving them a bunch of different opportunity, and again, I feel like it's being a writer as well. You're kind of writing like improv stuff. We would do the script as it was on the page, but then I would just kind of add in some extra little jokes or some extra things, and they're like, yeah, let's keep that. So you're helping them do their job. You're trying to be a solution for. That's the first thing that I learned about
nice.
auditioning. Yeah, it's like how can I? And even as an editor, when I got that job at Disney, it's like, all right, my job is to take your headaches away. Whoever the boss was, I'm talking to them. It's like my job is to take your headaches away, not add to your headaches. So how can I help you, and give me the worst projects you have, give the that nobody else wants. Give me all those projects and I'll turn them into gold, or I'll make them work and figure them out however it works. And they
So,
love that.
so you and I want to get this right. I think I got it right. Back when Walt Disney was alive in the 30s, 40s,
Mhm.
someone would do something to really help out, and they were coined the fair-haired boy. So
Oh,
you were the fair-haired boy. Give me
ah,
something that I'll take off your plate and I'll work on it, and then and all of a sudden you're valuable.
Right, right. And that's my biggest advice to anybody trying to get into the industry. It's not, you don't sit back and say, what can you do for me? It's like, all right, I've been in this a long time. Here's what I can do for you. And so, and taking away people's headaches and not adding to their headaches. And then people want you back again and again. So that's the biggest part, is because if I find a producer or three of them that love working with me, then I don't ever have to go out and find new work ever, because whenever they get a job, they're going to bring me into it. And so that was the key to, the successful, that's the only networking I was doing was, making sure my producers loved me, loved my work, and they would bring me on to the next project and the next one. So that was huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Have you ever met any of the actors that do the voices?
Some, who I have met some different people. I get to interview some people, and but again, mostly it's for ABC for the live action stuff. And I know that some of them have done some of the animated stuff, but so it's occasionally I get to meet or interview like Jessica Biel or some different people, and so but I'm not necessarily in their animated capacity. So it's usually for like a live action kind of a show, but I've also edited a bunch of behind the scenes videos for Disney Channel, where you would have like Danny Trejo coming on to an episode of Tangled, to play this real rough and tumble kind of bad guy. And so, they talk to him about, the behind the scenes, and they show him and, and getting to edit some stuff for Tangled specifically, where you had Mandy Moore and Zach.
Oh yeah,
Zachary Levi, that were in the office just doing some fun stuff. So anyway, that's why I like editing behind the scenes videos, because I'm there in the background of the set, just seeing this whole world and how are they doing different takes? How's the director responding and all this kind of stuff. So it's a fascinating kind of a world. And sometimes they have them where they're in the same room and they're doing the animation together. They're doing the lines together. Sometimes they separate them into different booths, and so they can, obviously single out their voices. Sometimes the person's just in there all alone, and their coworker's not even there. So there's just so many different ways that they do that. And I learned about Rango, where they would put these guys on a set somewhere and let them interact, and they were actually booming them with a boom mic. So you got that physicality of them actually acting and actually performing, and the downside is you pick up extra noises, so you have to deal with that at post. It's not a pristine sound booth, but that's kind of nice, especially for if it's like a Western like that one was. So to me, it's a fascinating kind of world to live in. I love it. So I'd love to do a lot more of that.
Your Disney editing. How do you, I'm trying to word this because you're teaching me a lot today. What's the final cut? I mean, can you make a mistake in editing? Not a per se mistake, but it goes to the final editing process and they ask you to redo it. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that? Has that ever happened?
Oh yeah. No, that's probably the toughest part of my job currently because I've been doing this for 35 years. I've got my master's, done all these things, and then I'll go into the office, make this first cut of something that'll be like very, cinematic or very, compelling, whatever it is. And then you've got the suits that come in, or and sometimes they're younger than me, they're 20-year-olds that are like my bosses that come in and they're like, oh, I didn't like that. I don't understand. And, that font was too loopy. And I'm like, and so, that, and having them squish it down into whatever basic behind the scenes video pattern which is more newsy or something like that. And so,
Okay.
so having to dumb down some of my work is kind of a challenge, but I think you deal with that no matter where you go.
That's true. Creativity, creative differences, if it's handled properly, then it can be progressive. But
Right.
continuity is kind of subjective. I mean, here's the story, here's a synopsis, like Durango. And this character is working with this character, and that's and then you have to capture that moment and cut out part of it because that's really not necessary.
Right.
And you have to get it within the parameters of, I would imagine, like, how long was Durango?
I don't know, more than an hour and a half. So
Okay.
somewhere between, probably like an hour 45, maybe. It was a good long.
So if they, it's meticulous. So if you went 1 hour 55 minutes, because of budget time and money and this and that, even though Disney is a monopoly, they would tell you it has to be within a certain time limit, like hour 45, hour 30. Really?
Yeah, usually so. And, because that 2 hour magic limit for theaters, they like that because they can show whatever it is, 7 screenings in a day. Well, if your movie's 2 hours and a half, they're still getting the same price per seat, but now you only get 6 seats. Or for Avatar, you're getting 5 screenings a day. So that number does matter. Now I know that with Restoration, I worked with the director because we both written it. He went out and shot it. Then he took all his best takes of stuff, and so he created a 2 hour cut. And then he gave all that to me, and then I took that, and our final cut was like 93 minutes long because I took out sometimes entire scenes. Like if we had the same messaging that was in this scene, but it was better in this other scene and more concise, this is just extra fluff that you're going to lose your audience because they're bored. And so that was part of it too. And then cutting some of the breath out of a scene where people are talking back and forth. Well, I can clip that up, take out some of those pauses, and have them answer right on top of each other. Yes, we did. No, we didn't. Yes, we did. I can cut it that fast, and now the energy of the scene is ramped up. Or I can slow it down and add more pauses where you say something, pause, cut to me, pause, and then I answer. That's a whole different thing. And so sometimes that helps. You're just doing it with a look. Our main character, he was supposed to be this stalwart ex-FBI guy. And so I felt like he would say a lot less, but when he spoke, it would be more powerful. So there's a lot of his dialogue that I just took out along the way, and he would just give a look as an answer or something like that. And it just, again, it helped elevate his character.
There we go.
Yeah, because it was more like Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood doesn't say a lot, but when he does, it's like a zinger, and you pay attention a little more. So this guy was talking and over-explaining too much. So by cutting some of that down, it really made him pop a lot more. So again, I took out almost 25 minutes of and it wasn't missed. Then it was, it was going from scene to scene. It was a lot smoother. And again, sometimes if a whole scene is not working and you take out this one little thing that was a problem at the beginning, now suddenly the whole scene is working. So editing is kind of a really tricky thing and very subjective. But I love that part of the game. It's just,
you like to be challenged.
Yeah, I like to be challenged, and I like to be to find again those moments that are in service of the story. Like, to me, if it's not serving the story, it doesn't matter if I have the greatest effect in the world or the greatest transition or whatever. If it's not serving the story, that's just me being a dumb editor, So you've got to cut it. Every story has a pace to it, a different pace, You're going to
Pace.
cut a
Yeah.
Michael Bay differently than you're going to cut an Amistad. And so it's just,
Wow.
you've got to find what the story is, what are the characters, and then kind of tell the story that serves those characters and story.
So, question: do you
Yeah.
read the scripts?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say it's it sounds like an obvious question, but maybe not. Editor. We picture a stereotypical editor, clip,
Right.
doing this, but he has to know the storyline, the emotion,
Right.
the emotion part, the
Yeah.
whether it's a thriller, whether it's animation things, and it kind of dances in your head, I would imagine.
Right. And the first cut really is the script cut. Whatever they had in the script, you put in the first cut. And then as you're watching it back, you're saying, well, this didn't really work like we wanted. This because in post-production, maybe your actor wasn't as good on that line, or maybe this scene, again, maybe you find out, well, we already said that over here. So there's things in post that you're like, all right, now you have to be able to leave the script behind in post. That's the biggest thing. Use it for your first cut, and then that becomes your foundation. Now for your next cut and your next cut, you're just trying to serve the story and find the best way of telling it with what you've got from production. Script world, you can write whatever you want, and it may work and may not on page. Now you're in the back, so if the wind was blowing funny and there, it's supposed to be this romantic thing and it's this funny moment, you gotta face that curveball in post-production and make it into something new. It's got to evolve, and that's, some people don't have the guts for that. They're like, I wrote it this way, I directed it this way, it's got to be. No, you got to let that thing evolve into what it's supposed to be, and again, to serve this story. And so sometimes we just don't have that footage you thought you had from production. So yeah, it's a lot of tough choices, but yeah.
Do you work closely sometimes with cinematographers then?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes, and sometimes it's like at the end of the process, because they'll come in to do the coloring. Once you've got everything locked, then they can come in and say, all right, let's tweak the colors on the scene to make it, what they kind of wanted it to be. So yeah, sometimes that's on the back side of it. They kind of come in and kind of inform for what it's supposed to be, for sure.
Well, you tell it like it is, and they come in and color it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, and they're very particular about, and that's why I like, because there's stuff like that I don't, I know a little bit about it, but I don't know all that they're trying to accomplish with from the beginning. So relying on the professionals, and hopefully they're relying on my skill as an editor to say, well, this is why we chose this scene, or this is why we chose this cut, because this is what it does and this is what it accomplishes. And they're like, okay, and then I rely on them. I rely on the audio guy to really add the underlying, stuff. So that hopefully by everybody kind of working together in their best capacity, the whole film evolves into a better final product. So yeah, and that's the other part of it. It's collaborative. You are relying on everybody. Whereas if I sit down, to write a novel, then that's just me at a keyboard and, saying whatever I want. So that's also has its own, liberties of being able to be a novelist. But in film world, we have to work with other people.
Absolutely, 100%. Have you ever, you're the foundation, the unsung hero, one of the heroes that people don't readily appreciate. No offense,
Right.
but, when people, the Tina or Tom that goes to the movies, they want the boom, the glory, right? Well, have you ever went on stage to accept an award or something, Oscars or anything like that?
Not that big yet, but I've gotten some different film festivals. Any film that we put out, any short film,
Yeah.
we wanted to then go on a film festival circuit and just put it in as many as we can. So that's where we get a lot of those little leaflets, for the different films, and some of them I've gotten it for editing for some of those, and I haven't been at any of those. But one time, our main actor, he got an acting award at one of these festivals, and I know because I sat through all his footage how difficult it was because he was an older gentleman. He couldn't remember his lines. He did a lot of pauses. He did a lot of stumbling. I cleaned up all of that. And so now to the point where he's getting an award for his performance. So I was like, I feel like I deserve half of this trophy, my friend, because the good directors, Spielberg and those guys, Tarantino, they rely heavily on their editors because they know, and good actors also know that your editor can make or break it in post. So,
I've heard. Yeah, exactly. Wow.
So that's huge.
What are you currently working on? If you can divulge.
Yeah. I've got a lot of different stuff at work. I think we've got at Disney, we've got High School Musical is coming up on their 20th anniversary of the first time that aired. So there's going to be an event next week where they have some of the actors come out and do something on the campus. And so we'll be shooting and editing some stuff for that. We've got, we just did one for Percy Jackson, just had their first season roll out, which is a huge rollout that they're doing with that show. And so that's been really big. And then I'm still writing the next book and the next book and the next book. So I'm always, I'm trying to release one in May that will be The Edge, my biggest sci-fi dystopian novel yet. And so again, there's a lot to go to between now and May. But and then as Bravo Bay Books, I'm helping other authors, get their books out to market, and then help them, do some marketing and stuff like that. So just always kind of working in that storytelling realm. And you said you do some teaching as well. So
yeah, I'm an acting coach. So
awesome.
Yeah, so I appreciate very much what you're talking about, and plus I do editing for my students as well as for acting reels, and
Nice.
You're hoping you're accurate, and you work with the actor, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You work with the character,
Mm-hmm.
and you highlight different moments, okay? Because those are the moments where people get the role or don't get the role. That
Right.
blink of an eye, I like it.
Right.
I like that. That was good, and the rest they ignore.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So,
and it's fun to see the different processes for all these different acting types. And some, your Daniel Day-Lewis, that he has to become the character. You've got some that are just, they switch it on, they do their thing, and they switch it off, and some just, so it's just so, each actor has to find their own kind of, like I said, for me, I like to be off camera and in front of a microphone because I can do all my acting and still have my script right there. So, it's
right.
So every actor has their different kind of different range and stuff. It's kind of fun to explore those as well.
Sure. Yeah. If someone wanted to get hold of you, how would they do that? How would you like that?
Obviously on most of the social medias, I'm at David Acuff, so on, Instagram and all those, I was able to get there first and land the name. And then of course, davidacuff.com is my website. And so can definitely find me anywhere there. And if anybody ever comes out to LA and wants to do lunch or something, I'll get them onto the Disney lot and we'll do a little tour and kind of see some of the behind the scenes stuff. So
that'd be me.
Come on out.
No, that'd be so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Definitely. I love California. Yeah, well, listen, David Acuff, thank you so much for being on Real Actors, Real Answers. You educated me, and I know the people out there will really appreciate you as well. So I want to say thank you for being on Real Actors, Real Answers, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.